Hey guys,
this is Justin.
Are you Justin?
Not this again. I need Mom. She needs to come too.
Oh shoot.
Oh man, this is Malcolm.
This is Justin.
And we are B-Boy Stance. And this is B-Boy Stance. And this is our stance on Mr. Ray Salvador, our art class teacher, and an artist. So I have a few questions for you.
All right.
So how long does it take to do at least one comic?
One full comic, a 20-page. I mean, for me, it's taken anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, almost a whole month. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm writing and drawing all of it, because I have to do the pencils and then the inks and then the colors. Most of the time I don't color, but for the comics. But from writing to doing, I could do the whole thing in under a month. That's with editing, times for editing, and days off in between. Unlike my hero, Jack Kirby, who used to do, he would spend 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, drawing nonstop, and he would do about, a month, he would do about 4 or 5 different issues at certain points in his career, the 60s. So he did like 5 or 6 comics a month. That's the level I want to get to, but yeah, so far, maybe just 1 or 2.
Right. So, okay. And, is it hard to be doing all of your work and still having time to live your life and stuff?
When I'm working on something, that is the only thing that I'm focusing on. I just keep all the time doing that. I have a studio at home, which is basically just a desk in a corner somewhere, and I just sit down and work on that. So I don't have time outside of that. If I have to go shopping or do laundry and stuff like that, I have to do it in the morning beforehand and then spend the next 10 hours drawing. But that'll usually only be for like a week or two, unless I'm working on a continuous project, which will take forever. That'll be like months and months. But yeah, no, I don't have time outside of that, unless I really try hard to make it. Gotta make that time. But yeah.
All right, Justin, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple questions actually.
Don't go off track though.
So when you how many comics have you made?
I've made a lot of comics on my own. I've self-published a few, which is just me making them. When I was younger, I used to just Xerox, make them in a copy machine and just sell things like that. I don't have an exact number, but quite a few, and I've had a few pinups, what they call pinups, or illustrations of somebody else's character done in the back of their comic or a part of their comic. I've had a lot of that stuff published. That's kind of how a lot of people break in, is by being featured in someone else's, especially in underground comics, you get featured on someone else's book. You have an illustration on the back of it, and I've had a few of those done. One of them that was put out by Image Comics, which was really cool. Back in the 90s, they used to do a thing for Wizard magazine, which was like, a few companies did it, Nintendo Power, I think, but Wizard did it, and people used to send them fan mail, and on the envelopes for the fan mail, they would draw characters that they liked. And some people draw like Venom or things like this, like a big thing in the 90s. So recently there was an Image comic book that did that. But the comic book it wasn't like it was going on for issues and issues, so it didn't really have fans to do fan mail for. So the guy that was writing and drawing it, he asked people to do fan mail for it, just envelope art for it. And he asked me to do it, and so I just did these characters on some envelopes for him. So it seems like it was like fan mail, but it was actually like a thing I was asked to do for it, which was very, very, very cool. And I got a lot of fans from that too, because it was Image Comics, which is awesome.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I have another question. When you publish the comic, and then do you need how many people do you need just to publish one comic?
That's a crazy question. So when you're publishing, self-publishing could be from doing stuff on a printer paper in your house by yourself, or from have a large a team of people working on it. So you can be the person who writes and draws your own comics, and then you print them on your printer at home, and then you sell them online, which is what a lot of people do, which is something I've done, and a lot of the stuff I've been featured in has been done like that. But there's also people who do, like, they write and they draw, and one person writes, one person draws, and other people work on the publishing side, while other people work on making it and putting it together, but it's still like underground. But then when you get to like something like the big two, like Marvel and DC, or things, there's like thousands of people involved into it, like the chain of maybe not even thousands, maybe a few hundred, but there's, you know, like editors and all sorts of things that happen on the way to getting there. But you don't have to, when it gets to that level, you don't have to worry about all those other people. But there's a few underground comics that, like, they do involve, you know, a few more than, you know, 5 or 6 people maybe that are involved in that. And then from some people it's just one person.
Last question for me. So, do you have like a usual like author, or like do you use like the same author that just like writes and writes all the stuff, or are you just like a writer and an artist?
So I have worked with one person a few times for a comic book, and they've written a few things that I've drawn that were still kind of like, a few things were still going to get published or about to be published, or like one day in the future going to be published. And then there's a few things that's the same. It's just me. Most of my stuff I do I've been writing from forever, and then I've been working on that stuff and trying to make that stuff, and some of it I have made, but there's more on the way. There's always more things coming. But most of my stuff is just me. But I have worked with another person, my friend Vita, who's a very, very, very good writer. They work for Valiant Comics and Marvel and DC. They have a bunch of stuff coming out, and that is already out too. But we've worked together on a few things so far. One thing I'm very excited to do, but I can't even talk about it. But one day, soon, hopefully, it'll be out in the world. I can't wait to talk about it.
Right. Thanks, everybody. This was B-Boy Stance, and this is Mr. Ray Salvador. I think you'll see him soon, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.